Adventure time. I'm going in.
Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be showing you a in-depth but also simple to follow guide on how to build characters, set up artifacts, and the like in Genshin Impact. We got some gameplay going on in the background, so I hope you enjoy watching it. Now, whether you have the simplest 4-star with no artifacts or one of the best 5 stars in the game, it does not matter. You're able to build your characters effectively. They will deal damage no matter how bad they are. It can be very frustrating at first, and it can make you cry for days on end. I know that's what it was like for me. Now, anyway, as we continue on, I will go ahead and show you some of the easiest ways to go and work on your characters, and it's simple, easy, and really not that hard. Now, of course, we have several different elements in Genshin Impact, including Pyro, Anemo, Cryo, Dendro, Electro, and Hydro. Of course, though, as Mihoyo has done, I can't show you Dendro because it doesn't exist yet. But that's besides the point. Let me go ahead and show you how we set up characters in Genshin for the easiest ways to benefit you, your fights, and the ways that you can work through them to the best of your ability. Trust me, it's really not that hard. So, now as you can see, we move on to support, healers, the like. And my main DPS, and what I will start off with, is everybody's favorite discount Killua, Bennett. Now, as you can see, based off of our stats here, 18,000, almost 19,000 HP, 1,600 attack, 1,000 defense, you might be saying to yourself, that's not really a lot of attack, is it? It's not. But, as you saw from the starting clip that started the video, base attack isn't everything, and I will show you how that works. Details. Everything is in the details, as they say. Crit rate and crit damage. This is something that I get a lot of questions about. What's the best way to build your crit rate, crit damage? What's the sweet spot, the Goldilocks zone? Let me go ahead and explain that for you. Crit rate and crit damage can be finicky, but the easiest and best rule of thumb is 50-100. Always have your crit damage double of your crit rate, and try to keep your crit rate near or above 50%. If you have anything lower than that, it's really unlikely that you'll get that crit. So if you have a 50-50 chance of hitting that crit, that will save your life in many situations, whether that be domains, spiral abyss, or anything of the like. Crit damage. I would usually recommend, if your crit rate is 50, have your crit damage at 100 or higher. As you can see, my crit rate 57.9, crit damage 158.2. Higher your crit damage, better your damage obviously, but do not neglect that crit rate. If you have 300% crit damage but only 4% crit rate, there's no point. And exactly on the flip side, if you have 90% crit rate but only 30% crit damage, once again, it really neglects the purpose. Moving on to your energy stats, cooldown reductions, and shield strengths, a main DPS like Bennett, you do not need to really heavily worry about shield strength, and cooldown reduction isn't your biggest thing. What is your energy recharge. In order to get that ult that you use to deal those big numbers as you saw, you're going to want a good level of crit damage, crit rate, but really energy recharge. You want that ult back there as quick as possible, and a good high-level energy recharge will allow you to get that. Now, onto your elemental types. Pyro damage bonus is what obviously you're going to want for a character like Bennett, as his vision, as we all know, is Pyro. You want to focus on that, and if you can get that artifact with a Pyro damage bonus, that will help you so much in the long run. Now, let's move on to weapon types. Blackcliff Longsword. In my honest opinion, the best weapon to have for Bennett. It gives you that boost on crit damage, it gives you good attack, and its substat is also very good as well. Defeating opponents, giving you that increased boost for 30 seconds of 12% on your attack is very helpful in tough challenges when it comes to using Bennett and the rest of your team. Artifacts. Artifacts are one of the trickiest and hardest parts for people to learn and understand in Genshin Impact. And I can understand it was difficult to me learning that at first as well. I was there. I can imagine how you feel now if you don't know how to properly work them. There's hundreds of different combinations, many different types of sets, but let me go ahead and easily break it down for you. So, as you can see here in my Bennett, I have the Noblesse Oblige, a 5-piece full set of Noblesse, and the reason I'm doing that is, as you can see, my set bonuses, that 2-piece set, elemental burst damage plus 20%, and that 4-piece set, elemental burst increase for all party members for 20% for 12 seconds. That makes things absolutely great when you're using your ults for characters. It really helps a lot, and that's why, in my opinion, any character that you mainly use their elemental burst for, I recommend Noblesse Oblige. Now, as you saw, with my Blackcliff Longsword, the reason I have the way that I have set up is my Blackcliff Longsword gives me that crit damage bonus. So, when I come to my crown, in this case the Royal Mask, I'm able to focus it entirely on crit rate, but at the same time, you can see that crit damage is still there. If you want to focus weapons that deal crit rate, like over here, you can see you can get that crit damage bonus artifact that will allow you to massively increase your crit damage. Of course, these are the two I recommend, crit rate and crit damage. I wouldn't focus heavily on attack unless you really need to for a base attack character. Elemental Mastery is one of the best things for supporting characters. Of course, you've got your healing bonus ones for your healers, but we'll go into those two momentarily. Now, constellations. Constellations aren't the most important thing in the world, as I will show you later on, but when it comes to constellations, they definitely help a lot. For example, Bennett here, one of the big rules of thumb is not C6ing your Bennett, and that's because certain constellation stats can really affect your team's build. Anyway, off of that point, once again, not the most important things in the world, and I'll show you why later. Talents, this is another thing that people can get tripped up on. What you want to focus on when it comes to talents is what version you use the most. Of course, when it comes to Bennett, his Burst, Fantastic Voyage, is the one that I use the most, and that's why it's maxed out, leveled above Passion Overload and Strike of Fortune. Of course, you still want to focus on those two, because if you don't have your Burst ready, you need to use your E skill, and you need to use your normal attack, and if you don't have those leveled with your talents, you're going to be screwed over in the long run. That's how you build a DPS. That's how I build a DPS, and that's the main way I can tell you how to build a DPS. Now, let's move on to defense characters, geo characters, shield characters, characters like Albedo. Now, the thing about a character like Albedo and other geo characters like Goro is they base their skills off of defense. Their damage is built off of their defense. So, while he may have only 1500 attack, his defense is 2273. And as you can see from the clip that is playing right now, even though his attack is low, that boost in defense for his damage seriously has a major impact on his performance. Now, let me go ahead and zoom in and I will show you the details on Albedo. Crit rate, 52.4, once again, keeping it over that 50% mark, 101% crit damage, keeping it doubled of that of crit rate. Energy recharge, keeping that above 100 as well, and getting that sweet geo damage bonus there of 28.8% to level him up a little bit more. But once again, having that big defense allows him to increase his geo buff. Now, weapons, keeping it with that, we have the Cinnabar Spindle that gives us that big 69% defense boost, as well as his substats, giving him an elemental skill damage increase of 80% of defense. This is, in my opinion, the best weapon for Albedo. It is his canonical weapon, and if you were able to refine it to rank 5, it is a sweet, amazing, and powerful sword that will get you through so many situations with the boy here. Artifacts, of course, we have the Husk of Opulent Dreams that gives us that defense bonus and gives us those major 4-piece substats and allows him to increase his defense even further. Here's what I mean by constellations. My albedo is only C1. Constellations aren't everything. And as you saw from the clip that I will play again here, even though he only is C1, those damage numbers speak for themselves. Talents. Once again, keeping his talents up higher. His talents could definitely be better, but having them at the levels that they are allows me to deal the damage that I am able to do. Now, moving on to other characters, specifically this last set that I will talk about that's very important, support characters. Here we have everybody's favorite tone-deaf bard, Venti. As I said about constellations, I do not have a single constellation on Venti, but as the clip I am playing right now shows, that doesn't matter once again. It's how you build your talents and artifacts that really will do your numbers. Now, my Venti is based off of attack, but his supporting skill for elemental mastery is really what gets me that group damage with his burst of massive levels of swirl damage, and it's all elemental mastery that really handles that. Now, if we go into details, you can see that nearly 50% crit rate and that over 100% crit damage. Once again, that sweet Goldilocks zone, over 100% on energy recharge. And even though I don't have an Anemo boost, I have that elemental mastery that is giving him very high builds and increased damage on Overload, Superconduct, Electrocharge, Shattered, and Swirl, as well as that Vaporize and Melt and Crystallize. You can see, and the numbers speak for themselves. His weapon, boosting his crit rate, getting me to that point, is boosting his attack and increasing his crit damage, allowing me to increase his burst capabilities when it comes to supporting my team. Skyward Harp might be a hard weapon to get, but there are plenty of other weapons, including the Stringless, which boosts your elemental mastery and increases elemental skill and elemental burst damage. That is also an incredibly good weapon for Venti to use. As well as the Viridescent Hunt, boosting your crit rate and boosting your base attack. If you can get it from the Battle Pass and you're willing to spend the money on it, I would definitely recommend it. But of course, if you are free to play, the Stringless is the best weapon if you can't get your hands on Skyward Harp for Venti. I really tell you, once again, use Stringless if you don't have Skyward Harp. When it comes to artifacts, of course I'm going to be using the Viridescent Veneer. Anemo damage bonus of 15%. Gives me that slight Anemo damage bonus, though it's really negligible, it's still there. And my 4-piece set is increasing my swirl damage by 60% and lowering my opponent's elemental resistance by 40%. So it is a very important set to have, and it is the only set I would really heavily recommend for a support Anemo character like Venti. Once again, like I said, constellations not important as long as you build your talents like the way they are and your artifacts the way they are. Of course, Venti's Elemental Burst. Level 10, I have it at the highest point I can because it is the major thing I use for support. Though Skyward Sonnet and Divine Marksmanship are also leveled because they are also highly important when they need to be used. So, that is how you build characters in Genshin. As you can see, the way that you build them, the way that you evolve them, and the way that you structure them is what will allow you to get through things like this, the Spiral Abyss, with ease, effectiveness, and overall competence when you're playing through Genshin Impact. Remember that 50 to 100 crit rate, crit damage Goldilocks zone. Remember that constellations aren't everything. Build those talents and don't neglect the base ones. And remember to stretch out your weapons and structure them to the way you want to use your character. Once again, thank you everybody for listening. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you got a lot of valuable information from the video. And if you did, a like, subscribe, and turning on notifications would mean so much to me. And I will continue on with videos like this in the future if you guys want them. Once again, thanks for watching and have an awesome time playing Genshin Impact.